Hello there, I'm Thomas. Probably like you, I used to struggle a lot with my bass metal tone until I found out that there are really 3 key elements to any good modern bass metal tone. The cool part is that you can use them independently or all together, but all together is a lot more fun though. I'm going to tell you right now what they are, but I definitely recommend sticking around so you can understand why and how this concept works and apply them to your bass tone and any gear. The 3 things you need are dynamic control, saturation, and parallel processing. There are timestamps in the video, so feel free to skip to the part you're the most interested in. Oh, and I also included a Google Drive link in the video description so you can download the presets I'm making in this video. I'm using Helix Native, but that will work with your Helix hardware as well. And as I said, these are concepts that you can use anywhere with any plugin, so let's get into it. I'll be using this Ibanez SR305E. It's tuned to drop A, the rest of the string is standard EADG. I'll be using the pickup in the humbucker position. The blend knob is turned slightly more toward the bridge. On my EQ, bass is at noon, the mids are slightly cut and the treble is slightly boosted. Here's the bass DI tone. First up is dynamic control. It's the backbone of getting a consistent bass tone that will stay level throughout the mix. As you may have seen on the input fader, the intensity of the bass was a bit all over the place, especially when I played on the low notes. I'm going to load the compressor and see how we can control that dynamic. For this example, I'll be using the Rochester compressor. As you can see, I'm using a pretty high ratio of 10:1, a fast attack at 10 milliseconds, and the fastest release I could have on the compressor. That will really allow the big dynamic spikes to be clamped down, and if you pay attention to the output meter, you will notice that now all the notes are really going out to almost the same level. It's really more consistent now. Let's check that again. Cool! It's also good to know that in modern metal tones you can also use the bare DI of your bass or get it through an amp. And whether you're using an amp or not, you can also use a compressor or limiter at the very end of your bass chain. That will allow you to control the dynamic a bit more and have a really consistent level for your entire mix. Here I'm using the LA Studio Comp in Native, but you can use any compressor or limiter in your DAW if you want to. Here the goal is really to catch the last peaks and to make sure that everything is really consistent. If you're feeling that you're lacking a bit of punch on the first compressor, you can increase the attack. And if you have too more punch, well, you can just decrease the attack. Before going to the next part, don't forget to let me know what you think in the comments. And why not hit that like button at the same time? Next up is saturation. It's where you really get that aggressive, gritty tone that helps your bass cut through the mix. You can try using an overdrive, a distortion, a fuzz, or something more modern, reminiscent of the dark glass pedals. Cool! The Obsidian here is a simulation of a well-known dark glass pedal. It has a lot of parameters to shape your tone, and I also found that it's sometimes useful to put another EQ before the pedal or after the amp so you can sculpt your tone better. Here's the saturation going into an amp. And here it is without the amp, which can also work really well in the mix context. You can also experiment by sending the distortion into a speaker simulation or IR of your choice. I kinda like both. What could we do about that? Finally, let's talk about parallel processing. It's really the secret weapon for getting that massive consistent low end and that aggressive clank tone. You can set that easily in any DAW by sending your bass tone to two buses. The first one, you are going to cut the high frequency, so you're keeping the low end and setting a compressor for that. And on the other bus, you're cutting your low end and saturating everything else. It's basically what Neural DSP does with parallax. So if you don't want to bother, just get parallax. You can also simulate that with JST HEAT. So here I'm compressing the low end and saturating the mid and high bands. And now a lot of possibilities are offered to you. You can put any signal in parallel and blending them up to your taste. Like a lot of things in music production, you really have to ask yourself, what are you trying to achieve? So let's take the previous preset and set the amp in parallel with the saturation just to hear how it sounds. In Helix, it's super simple. You grab your block and you drag it, and that's it. Here I have two lanes. One is going to the dark glass pedal and the other one is going to the amp. Together they sound like that. Here in the blend option, you have a lot to play with. So if you'd rather have more saturation or amp, you can play with that slider. So just saturation, just the amp. So you can blend them the way you want. Here you can also just deactivate the amp sim, so you have a clean DI and a saturation in parallel. I like having the amp and cab. I feel it's a bit more nastier, but that's my preference. And back to the mix options here, you can also do a crossover frequency. So that's basically what you're going to do in your DAW by sending your bass to two different buses. So what's going on here is I kept the saturation on that lane, but it's going to saturate really anything above 200 Hz, and everything below 200 Hz is going to that other lane. So it's going to be compressed, so we are really getting a consistent low end anytime, and then it's mixed back to the distorted signal. So right now you can blend them any way you want. It's really up to you and to the need of the mix. So for example, more bass and less saturation. More saturation. And both at the same level. Let's make a quick recap of what we did so far. We used dynamic control with compression to create a simple yet very usable bass tone with or without an amp. Then we added some saturation to make it a bit more aggressive. Then we use the power of parallel processing to blend saturation with a clean DI amp, and also to blend some saturation with a consistent low end. There you have it. A lot of possibilities, 3 key elements to help building a massive modern metal bass tone. You can use them on their own or blend them for maximum impact and a lot more flexibility. And also to prove to you that it's not luck, I used them with Logic's plugins to create this bass tone. If you want to use the exact preset I used in this video, including the Logic preset, check out the Google Drive link in the description. Try them out, tweak them, make them your own, use them as they are, just have fun. If you found any of this helpful, please hit the like button, consider subscribing to the channel, and drop me a comment to let me know what you think. You can also head over to that video if you want to see more of these bass tones in action, or over here if you prefer to keep watching more music production tips. Thank you so much for watching, I'll see you next time.